For generations, the world has been told that Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492. His voyage changed history, but was he truly the first to reach this land? Hidden beneath the pages of history lies a far more fascinating story. Thousands of years before European ships crossed the Atlantic, millions of indigenous people were already living across North America, building thriving communities and unique cultures. Even more surprising, archaeological evidence suggests that Viking explorers may have arrived centuries before Columbus. So who really discovered America? In this documentary, we will uncover the evidence, challenge long-held beliefs, and reveal the remarkable truth behind one of history's greatest mysteries. Long before European ships reached the shores of America, this land was already home to ancient peoples whose story began thousands of years earlier. The first inhabitants did not arrive as famous explorers, but as communities searching for new places to survive and build their lives. Over generations, they spread across the continent and adapted to different environments, from frozen northern lands to forests, mountains, and deserts. They created unique cultures, languages, traditions, and farming methods that shaped the history of America. Their connection with the land was deep, and their knowledge allowed them to thrive for centuries. This forgotten chapter reveals an important truth. The story of America did not begin with European arrival. It began with the indigenous peoples who explored and built their lives across this continent long before recorded history. For thousands of years, the ancestors of today's indigenous peoples explored rivers, crossed mountain ranges, and settled across nearly every corner of the continent. They built thriving societies long before Europe even knew these lands existed. Great trade networks connected distant communities, allowing ideas, tools, and goods to travel hundreds of miles. Skilled farmers cultivated crops such as maize, beans, and squash, supporting growing populations. Their knowledge of nature, astronomy, and survival was passed from one generation to the next. By the time European explorers finally looked west across the Atlantic, America was already a land filled with history, culture, and innovation. The real question was no longer whether the continent existed, but why the outside world had remained unaware of it for so long. While indigenous civilizations continued to flourish across the Americas, a different chapter was developing thousands of miles away in Europe. European sailors searched for new trade routes to Asia, hoping to reach lands filled with valuable goods. Improvements in ships, navigation tools, and maps made longer journeys possible, but the Atlantic Ocean remained a dangerous and unknown challenge. Many feared traveling west into unexplored waters. Among those who believed it was possible was Christopher Columbus, a determined navigator who sought support from the Spanish crown. His mission was not to find a new continent, but to reach Asia by sailing west. However, his journey would create a turning point that forever changed world history and the connection between Europe and the Americas. In 1492, Christopher Columbus began his famous voyage across the Atlantic with 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Leaving Spain behind, the expedition entered a vast ocean filled with uncertainty and danger. As the days passed, the sailors faced exhaustion, fear, and doubts about whether they would ever find land. Columbus continued following his maps and navigation methods, believing that a western route could lead him to Asia. After weeks of traveling through unknown waters, the crew finally saw signs of land ahead. However, the place they reached was not Asia as Columbus had expected. It was a new world that would forever change the course of history and create a powerful connection between Europe and the Americas. After reaching the Caribbean in 1492, Columbus believed he had discovered a western path to Asia. He explored the islands and met indigenous people who had already built their own communities and cultures for generations. When Columbus returned to Spain, his reports created excitement across Europe and encouraged more Atlantic exploration. His journey connected two worlds that had been separated for centuries, leading to the exchange of goods, ideas, and traditions. However, these encounters also brought difficult changes for native societies. The story of America's discovery became more complex as historians began examining different viewpoints about who truly discovered the continent. Although Columbus became one of the most famous explorers in history, the question of who discovered America did not end with his voyage. Long before 1492, indigenous peoples had already lived across North and South America for thousands of years, building diverse cultures, communities, and civilizations. Centuries before Columbus, Norse explorer Leif Erikson reached parts of North America around the year 1000, proving that European contact happened earlier than many people once believed. However, these earlier journeys did not create the same global impact as Columbus's expedition. His voyage connected Europe with the Americas on a much larger scale and changed the course of world history. The idea of discovery depends on perspective, because different groups experience these events in very different ways. The debate over who discovered America continues because history is not a simple story with only one answer. For indigenous peoples, the Americas were already home long before any European explorer arrived. Their ancestors had developed unique cultures, traditions, languages, and societies across the continents for thousands of years. For Europeans, Columbus's voyage represented a major moment because it created lasting connections between Europe and the Americas. The earlier journey of Leif Erikson also showed that transatlantic exploration happened before Columbus. However, Columbus's expedition had the greatest global impact by opening a new era of exploration, trade, and migration. Understanding this history requires looking at multiple perspectives and recognizing that discovery can mean different things depending on who tells the story. Over time, the story of America's discovery became a subject of discussion among historians, researchers, and different cultures around the world. Modern discoveries and archaeological evidence revealed that human history in the Americas stretches back thousands of years before European voyages. The arrival of explorers like Leif Erikson and Christopher Columbus added new chapters to this long timeline of exploration. Columbus became widely known because his voyages created continuous connections between Europe and the Americas, leading to major changes in global history. Today, many historians explain that discovery is not about a single person, but about understanding the many journeys, civilizations, and events that shaped the continent. The history of America is a story created by countless people across different eras. The story of who discovered America cannot be answered with a single name. Indigenous peoples had lived across the Americas for thousands of years before any European explorer arrived. Leif Erikson reached parts of North America centuries before Columbus, while Columbus's 1492 voyage permanently connected Europe and the Americas, reshaping world history. Today, historians recognize that America's past is far more complex than a simple tale of discovery. Understanding this history means respecting different perspectives, examining historical evidence, and appreciating the many civilizations that shaped the continent. The real story is not about one explorer alone, but about the long human journey that made America what it is today.